All right, it's about 10:01. We'll get started. How are you guys doing today? So today we're going to do on the listing side. I know last week we did the buyer side, but I did get actually 3 text messages today from agents. So I just wanted, since all of you will probably have very similar questions, I just want to answer those questions. So one of them was, hey, this is on the buyer agency agreement. Let me make sure this is being recorded. Okay, good. If you have a buyer agency signed and the client wants to buy directly from the developer and the builder, and they weren't offering a commission, how are you going to handle that? Well, you need to have that conversation with your client before you get to that stage. You have to let them know that if you have, whether they're a builder or a seller, if they're not offering a compensation, you need to advise them how they can work it by adding it to the price, or they pay you directly. So you need to make sure you have those conversations. Don't just wait till the last minute. They should know from day one what your fee is and how you're going to get paid in the event that the seller is not offering a compensation. And then the other one is saying is they want to put the house search on hold and they want to terminate the contract. So yes, in writing, they can cancel the agreement. You have 10 days, so you have to confirm it within 3 days. And then within 10 days, you have to send them an email with all the properties you have shown them. So for your protection, I hope you guys all know on the buyer agency agreement, you do add a protection days of how long you want to be protected. So let's say you had a 3-month agreement or a 6-month agreement, and you have shown them properties every weekend. Maybe start and have a protection period of 90 days. So hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm more than happy to cancel. Just so you know, this is the list of properties I have shown you. In the event that you end up buying any of these properties, the commission will be owed to me. So make sure you send them that email. So that's why it's so important to keep track of properties you have shown. We had an agent that they had showed a property back in December. The client, this was prior to any of these agreements occurring. And then we just found out that in April they closed. So anything could happen, right? Maybe a client you showed a property had multiple offers, they didn't get it. The house was under contract. 3 months later, that contract fell through. It goes back to active. You didn't pay attention to that client. You both went separate ways, and now you find out the client bought the property. So please make sure you're adding the protection clause on those agency agreement. And then there was another one. Now this is on the listing side. It said someone told her that we're not allowed to charge MLS fees anymore. So first of all, nothing is price fixed. That's not accurate. So if your seller is offering a commission to the buyer's agent, yes, you can collect a listing fee. Now, there are certain companies that have made it into like an office policy that they're not charging an MLS listing fee. If they are doing that, that means, hey, if you have a buyer, you're sending them an offer, that means they're not charging you an MLS fee. If you have the listing and you want to charge an MLS fee because you are offering a compensation and that particular agent wants to submit an offer, you can collect the MLS fee. And if they're telling you no, because my office doesn't collect an MLS fee, just reach out to your office manager and we will be more than happy to contact their manager. All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen. If you created a loop this morning past 8:30, you will see that it does look a little different. So I want to go over that. Let me just see, there's one more question on the chat. I saw an agent list in both regular and agent remarks that the buyer's offering a seller concession of 2.5. There is no mention of compensation. However, given recent changes, I'm sure that that's what they're referring to. How do you feel about this language? I don't know how some MLSs are not catching these type of remarks. You cannot write any, depending on which MLS too, but they're not allowing for you to write that specific language. So that's up to the MLS to determine how they want to handle it. Okay, so
Idona, can I just mention something to that point?
yes.
On the first day, I did try to add it to a listing, and the NJMLS immediately issued me $1,000 fine. Even though I had several attorneys, including Matthew Petrello, who does a lot of our CE classes, saying that it's perfectly legal, but do we really want to challenge the MLS? You know, they did waive the fine when I did take out the language, but I don't know if it's worth battling with them.
Yes, so this is like a waiting period too. I think we're all just going with the flow. Everyone wants to be very, very careful, and we have to make sure that we are following the NAR settlement. I'm sure past November we will see some updates from the New Jersey Real Estate Commission, but for now, just don't risk it. It's not worth it. We already know. I think we've been doing pretty well with just contacting the agent. I know there's some agents that are not responding. You guys have reached out to me. I reached out to those agents and I was able to get the compensation for you guys. So feel free, if someone's not responding to you, just let your manager know. We'll also make a call. And I get it. There's some agents saying, oh, just submit your offer and everything is negotiable. Yes, you will see that as well. That's why it's so important to have those conversations with your buyers, and you have to be upfront. I know it's a hard conversation to ask them, like, hey, this is what my fee is, and this is how I'm going to get paid. So thank you, Rebecca, for sharing that. All right, so here's the loop. So when you go and create a loop, just remove this, add a loop. So we're just gonna do a listing test loop. Again, this is where you would enter the property address. So this will look a little different. We have heard all of your feedback that it was just too many forms in one loop. It was getting confusing. You didn't know what was required, what was not required. So we have decided to break it down. So let's say I'm going to pick a GSMLS listing loop for now. So now our loop is it's easier. So if you're doing an NJMLS loop, Garden State, Monmouth, All Jersey, Hudson, you'll only be able to see the required documents for that particular MLS, as well as the forms for New Jersey Real Estate Commission, as well as RE/MAX documents. So if you notice, you're not going to see all the other required forms. This is just Garden State. So obviously you guys know the seller property disclosure is not required, whether it's an REO, investment property, they never lived there and it's an estate. You have to make sure that you tell your clients that they have to fill it out. They can't just say not lived there. Property address, seller. We did add the unknown fields. I know the one from New Jersey New Jersey Realtors did not have these boxes, so we did add the fields. They can check unknown for every page except where it's for the flood risk. You have to let them know they must go to these either FEMA. They did give you some more information on the flood, that they have to answer these questions. Now, if it's unknown, it's unknown. You do have the fields, but you know, most of the time, if they go on the flood map, they'll be able to determine if their property is in a flood zone. And then they have to sign it. You need to sign it. As the listing agent, it's your responsibility to make sure you have the sign when they're signing the listing. Don't wait till after the fact. Now, if the real estate commission comes and they decide to pick on your transaction and you have a listing that was signed, let's say September 1st, and now you didn't have them sign the seller disclosure till October when the buyer's agent figure out that she needs this or he needs this form, can they pick on you and give you a fine because they know you didn't get the sign at the same time? Possibly. So just make sure, make it a habit. You're sending, and it's actually easier when you're sending your seller forms to sign to sell their home, if you attach all these required documents at the same time, it's harder to get a seller to sign something after the fact. So you list this on the MLS, but however, when you have a buyer that's submitting an offer, and if the other agent didn't do their job and they did not submit this document with the offer, please make sure you ask them to send it. You should not let your seller go under contract without you having this signed. And I tell you this because I had shared multiple times, and I'm going to tell the rest of you here today, we had a lot of cases with seller disclosure in the last few weeks. One of them was the buyer after the fact. We needed to have the buyer sign it, and they blackmailed the seller. They said they moved in and they have discovered a few issues, and they will not sign it until they get reimbursed for the money they have spent at their home. Another one was the seller didn't want to sign it. They said, I already sold my property. I am not signing this disclosure. So you do not want to be in that position. So make sure you get this signed. And if you're representing the buyer, it's okay. You can still show the house if the listing doesn't have the seller disclosure. You just want to make sure that you do request it from the listing agent, and you make sure that you have this signed before your client gets under contract. Any questions on the seller disclosure, guys? If you had a listing that was active prior to August 1st, obviously there would not be many, but let's just say it was listed sometime in July, went under contract, now it just fell through, and now it's back to active. You have a client. Does this apply? Yes. If it goes back to active, the seller will now have to fill out a seller disclosure.
So Donna, before too many more messages come across, there's one that you should read in the chat from Susanna Costa.
So okay, so Audrey Porter said, someone wrote, we love buyers in the agent remarks. Is this allowed? You should not be writing any type of anything that obviously they know if they love buyer. I'm assuming they love buyer's agent. That's what they wrote. Again, that's up to the MLS to police it. I would tell you to not write anything like that. Let's see. Then, all right. Susanna Costa just said, I just want to say, you, Idona, have been a major support and help throughout this whole process, and hands down to the best manager so far. Thank you. You have always returned my texts and calls right away, no matter what day of the week or time, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you, everything you do for all of us, and your dedication in helping us agent success. Thank you so much, Susanna. I appreciate you. Right back.
Here, 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 here.
Thank you.
Now don't let it go to your head.
No, no, no. I'm done now. You know what? This is all I needed to hear, guys. Good luck. Of course, this is all of our leadership at Remax Select. We're here to help you guys. I have to say I'm very, very happy, and I keep telling Rob, you guys are the most informed agents that I have seen. You guys are the ones who are calling out on other brokerages saying, hey, you should not be writing this on the MLS. So I appreciate you guys spending your Tuesdays, your Fridays, all the trainings we have done for you guys. So thank you. All right, so there is a listing addendum. Let's see. So this is going to be changed, guys. It's called a listing addendum, but this is really the exclusive. I'm going to go back to this. So scratch what I just said, because I did change the word, the name of the form. So I'll go back to that. As you guys know, on the listing, because we're part of Remax Select, we offer a home warranty as an addition to our clients. You have to offer this to both buyers and sellers. You have to. They can decline it, but you have to let them know. Don't just send them the form and saying, just you are the one who click decline for them and have them sign it. You have to let them know, hey, just want to let you know, we do offer a home warranty to our clients. You as the seller, if you have a listing, and let's say that the listing that you are going to sell needs a lot of work, you can let your seller know, hey, just so you know, while we list the property, you can get coverage on your home in the event something breaks from the time we have the listing and we get under contract. I believe we will have Denise D'Amato, our insurance division manager. She will be more than happy to do a Zoom on this, but pretty much I believe it's like $65. They get up to $1,200 in repairs, the seller. However, if they choose to purchase that, they must buy a 1-year warranty for the buyer. And then these are the prices right here. So you have to be able to educate your clients that it's there. You can say, hey, Mr. Seller, we can decline it for now. And in the event that you change your mind later on in the listing, we can go back and get this done. Now, if you represent the buyer, you can let your buyer know after the home inspection, you can say, look, there is a home warranty and these are the prices. You can get them on the phone. You're not the one who's selling the insurance. You just have to let them know that it exists, and you are the source to the source. So you just need to get them connected to Denise. So for now, when you're getting on the listing, you can either, for most listings, it'll probably be decline and then have them sign it. Questions on why we need the ARW? Okay. Because we have the ARW, the affiliate business disclosure is required. You are disclosing to your sellers that we are affiliated with those partners. So you might say, well, they're the seller. They're not using a mortgage. They're not using the title. Why do they need to sign this? Because you have to offer the ARW, you have to disclose it that we're affiliated with them. So you put in their name, property address, the date, and they sign. Now, a lot of you have asked me, what are all these numbers? We have attached this because we're affiliated with LandQuest Title. The insurance division must provide settlement services on the cost for premium in the event your client chose to use LandQuest Title. So this is what the cost, these are what the fees are. So it has nothing to do with the transactions, it's not calculating their purchase, nothing. This is just saying for every $1,000, this is what it's gonna cost the buyer. Straightforward, right? So that's gonna be the affiliate business disclosure. Consent for electronic signatures. I am telling you, get this signed, because when I worked for an attorney, we did have a client who decided at the end they didn't want to purchase. They actually went after the attorney saying, I never agreed to sign electronically. So please make sure if you're sending documents through Dotloop, you have this signed. Now, if you have clients that are not using electronic signatures and you have been printing everything out, going to their home, or they're meeting you at the office and it's wet signature for all their documents, then your manager for your office can waive this document. Okay, so, but if they are signing anything electronically, make sure you have this on your loop. Now, you also have, I know some of you asked me about the listing, the exclusive listing, and also the designated agency. Well, I'm sorry, the dual agency agreement and the designated agency. I'm going to just tell you guys one more time the difference between designated, and I'm going to try and make this very, very simple for all of you. We are a dual agency, right? If you have a listing and another RE/MAX Select agent submits an offer, that's a dual agency. If you have a seller that says, hey, Robert Garber, I am okay with any RE/MAX Select agent submitting an offer on my property, but I don't want you to specifically represent the buyer. That's a designated agency. That's the simplest way that I can put it in for you guys. So if your seller does not want you to represent the buyer, you will get the sign. If you are okay and comfortable telling your client, hey, I have buyers that will want to buy your property, that's a dual agency. If you go on this route, so I've seen you guys sign both the dual and designated, don't do that. Just have one or the other sign. The designated agency is one below the dual agent, right? So if you have the designated agency, we're going to assume that your seller is okay with other RE/MAX Select submitting the offer. It's just not you. If you have the dual agency, that means the seller has agreed that it is a dual agency. Another thing we have come up, you have to let your seller know if another RE/MAX Select agent is submitting the offer, you got to let them know that now it is a dual agency contract. Your sellers will be your best friend until there's an issue, and then they will be your worst enemy. Make sure you disclose that. When you're writing your listing agreements, you have to make sure that you check mark the right boxes. So here, it's pretty simple. You put it in the property address 123 Main. So your manager needs to find the designated agent, right? So if you have a listing and now you have an unrepresented buyer that wants to put an offer in your property, you cannot be, as the listing agent, the one to pick the designated agent. Your broker manager from your office has to designate someone. It cannot be from your team, guys. So if you have a team, it cannot be a team member.
Donna, just a quick question on dual agency. If an agent from RE/MAX Select has a client who's going to buy a house from RE/MAX Signature Homes, is that dual agency?
It is not. Rebecca LaPera is the broker of record, so that is not a dual agency. That would be our closer office. I am actually going to share something with you guys. I have worked with our team, Fred, and I'll make sure that you all get a copy of it, but we have now listed all of our offices that you guys can use and know which one is the dual agency and which one is not. The only one that it's not is really the Closter office. So
Okay.
again, please don't have this document signed if your client agreed to a dual agent, okay? So let's just say Robert Garver will represent the buyer. Well, this one's for the seller, so I
Hey,
can.
I got a question. Why is Closter like why is that different? I know it's not a select, but Rob is part owner. Like what is the deal with that?
Correct. So Rob Lazar is partners with Rebecca LaPera in that office. So Rebecca LaPera is the broker of record and Rob is just a partner. However, because he's a partner, they're part of our family. So it just makes us bigger in the industry. That is the only reason. Does that answer your question, Gary?
Yes.
Okay. So now you guys will see that, first of all, the lead paint, just remember, if it's built prior to 1978, you do need to get the lead paint disclosure. Also, I just want to let you know that I am working with someone on Dot Loop that's helping me create this loops, and it's taking longer than usual, and we might see things that we're like, oh, this doesn't belong here. Please just notify me directly or reach out to your manager and have them reach out to me. This is a work in progress. We have come a long way, but it does still need a little bit of work. So here's the garden. Now you just see Garden State, right? So these are all the documents you will need for a Garden State MLS listing. So you can autofill this, make sure you autofill it, and then you fill out the rest of the information. So owner's name, Joe Smith. I'm just gonna put an address that he lives. Property address, we'll just put 123 Main Street, Bayonne, New Jersey. Brokerage firm, RE/MAX Select. And then let's say this is for sale, so we'll just put 800,000 to make this easy. The date, just gonna, okay. So here's the agency relationship. So a lot of you have also questioned me, which one do I pick? So seller's landlord agent only. That means that you don't have a dual agent. You're only going to represent the seller. Seller's landlord agent. So I'm going to just go back. The seller's landlord agent only. That means they don't want any RE/MAX Select to represent the buyer. So you really need to encourage your sellers to not pick that option. Seller's landlord agent and disclosed dual agent if the opportunity arises. You acknowledge that a disclosed dual agent shall not advocate terms favorable to one principal to the determiner of the other principal. Or you can pick transaction broker or seller's landlord agent and designated agency if the opportunity arises. You acknowledge that if a designated agency established brokerage firm itself will act as a disclosed dual agent. So here you can pick that you can represent the buyer as well as another RE/MAX Select submits an offer. The next one, sellers or landlord agent and designated agency. That means that you only represent the seller, and if a buyer comes, you are not going to represent the buyer, but another RE/MAX Select agent can. Make sense? So this one, the second one here, you can be a dual agent, so that means you can represent the buyer as well as another RE/MAX Select can bring the buyer. And then the other one is you just represent the seller, but a RE/MAX Select agent can bring a buyer, but not you. Self-explanatory, right? The agency relationship is exclusive or non-exclusive. Guys, remember, exclusive. We do not take non-exclusive listings. And if you notice, they put a note, a listing broker must have the exclusive right to list a property in order to submit a listing for that property to the service. If the agency relationship is non-exclusive, a different listing agreement shall be used. So make sure that you are letting them know it's exclusive. You do not want your seller, first of all, it's not even allowed, but you don't want your seller to have multiple listing agreements with other agents. And then this one, key box, check one does authorize you to place a GSMLS lockbox or does not. Here is the good part. This is the commission. You agree to compensate the listing broker as follows. Percentage of the sales price, specify. So you have to, everything is negotiable. Don't discount yourself. If your seller is not asking you for a discount, don't just offer it to them. Make sure that you give them the best, what your fee is, what your value is. Your listing presentation should be so great that they would be embarrassed to tell you, they would be embarrassed to have you discount your commission. So you can charge them whatever you think your value is. So I normally, for my listings, I would say my listing is 3.5. You can charge them a flat fee or other methods, but you have to specify. So if this listing agreement is for the sale of the property only, owner agrees not to list the property for rental with any other broker during the term of this listing agreement. If this listing agreement is for the rental of the property, only owner agrees not to list the property for sale with any other broker during the term of the listing agreement. That's why it's so important to have the exclusive. So here, 3.5, payment of...
I'm
Yes.
curious, if you charge 3.5, what is the buyer's commission percentage?
So we're gonna go down here and we'll add it. So I'm just saying right now, this is on my listing. This is what I charge, 3.5. Okay. So commission or fee disclosure. A seller, you have the right to individually reach an agreement of any fee, commission, or any other valuable consideration with any broker. No fee, commission, or other has been fixed by any governmental authority. So it's fully negotiable. I'm telling them my fee is 3.5. Now, if you go down this listing agreement with the seller and you're able to get them to agree to the buyer's broker, will add it to this. So let's assume, to make it easier for you guys, I was able to get 5.5, 3.5 for me, and 2% for the buyer. So it's not confusing because I know we're used to writing the total amount. So 5.5, but you have to let them know that 5.5 is not just for you. Payment of compensation. The owner agrees to pay the listing broker or the listing broker may direct the commission if the property is sold, leased, exchanged, or otherwise transferred through the listing broker or through any other source, including the direct lease sale by owner before the expiration date. So this is only if you are going to list a property with the intention of selling in the future. This is where you will put in your commission. How much should the owner pay you in the event the property that you have found a tenant? How much commission should you get? So 2.5 or 3.5, whatever you feel comfortable. So if the tenant buys this property, then what should your commission be paid? So for now, let's assume this is just a listing, not a rental, right? Because we did a sale. I went too far, okay. Here's a broker protection. If you have a listing agreement, whether it's 6 months or 12 months, and it says owner agrees to pay the listing broker the commission if the owner, acting as the owner's own behalf within specified date after the expiration date, conveys or agrees to convey the property to any buyer shown the property by the listing broker or any person during the terms of this listing agreement. This clause shall not apply if the property has been listed by the owner with another broker by written agreement. So that means if you had a listing agreement, guys, for 6 months and you had a lot of buyers seeing the property, and now your listing agreement has been expired, but one buyer goes directly and wants to submit an offer, you want to protect yourself. Or if you had it for a year and the seller decided to withdraw the listing after they were not happy with certain offers, and that buyer goes directly to the owner to purchase the property, this protects you. So depending on how long your agreement was, you can put any date. I typically put 180 days. That's just giving me time in the event, you know, the buyer does not submit an offer right away and then they go later on. But again, like this states, if they do relist the property with another agent, obviously you will not get the commission. So here's the sharing of compensation commission split. So this is where you tell your seller how much do they want to offer to the buyer's agent. I think we have some questions, so I'm just going to read them through. Can we obtain a filled in copy of this to use as a guide? Yes, you can. Do we have an office listing agreement that we can personalize for us to use? Meaning, Susanna, are you asking for an exclusive listing agreement, like a RE/MAX Select? If that's the case, yes, I can definitely fill one out and you guys can use that as an example. Wouldn't that be nice if we were able to get 3.5 for a listing? Ari, that's possible. You just have to go be confident, show them what your value is, and you know, you should be able to get the 3.5. Not a listing presentation, sorry. So yes, Susanna, we can definitely have this pre-filled and you guys can use it as a guide. Paul said, what if the seller is open to negotiating buyer agent compensation, but doesn't want to state a specific amount at that time? So if that's the case, then you wouldn't be sharing the commission. So you would just leave it at blank. We have come across a few agent listings where you guys have called them and they said, oh, the seller wants to negotiate based on the buyer's offer. So yes, the seller doesn't have to specifically pick an amount. However, it's our job as a listing agent to let them know you might have steer some buyers away because they might only want to see the property if they're offering a compensation. If it's kind of open in the air, they're not going to bother wasting their time to see the property. So you have to let your seller know this could happen if they're not offering upfront commission. Because when we went over the buyer agency agreement, the buyer has the option to let you know, only show me properties that are offering compensation. So if your seller wants to wait to see what the offer is before they negotiate, then that's the risk they take to not show the property to certain buyers. So here's the 2% because I took a listing per 5.5 minus listing fee. Guys, remember, it's not fixed. RE/MAX Select, we do not tell you what you should be charging as a listing fee. If my seller asks me, what is this listing fee for? I'm going to tell them it's for my sign. It's the listing fee, marketing, even though we spend a lot more, this just covers a portion of my marketing for your home. And it's not going to affect what they're giving me. It comes from the buyer's agent. Again, it's not fixed. And I did answer those questions in the beginning, but just to let you know, we're not saying that you cannot collect the listing fee. Consent to share in the compensation commission split, the owner either does or does not. For this example, we have chose that the seller is does consent for us to share the compensation. I'm just getting some text with questions. I just want to make sure I read the questions. One of the question was, can you ask agents what's the range of commission fee most agents are charging buyers? Just for me. Okay. So I'll ask that later on towards the end of this Zoom. So one of them was saying, can we get a listing presentation so we can use it as an example? Yes, I can definitely work on it. Just give me till end of the week and I will share it with all of you with all the required documents. I'll pre-fill them so you guys know how to fill your forms. All right, so that's it for questions. So here is where you're going to share the compensation. So sub-agents, no buyer's broker, we're going to say 2% minus 300. Transaction broker, 2% minus 300. So then we're going to, and then they sign it. Questions on this form? So I know this was on the listing side, but just so you guys know, for the rental transaction side, you can still have listings for rentals that the landlord wants the tenant to pay the 1 month broker fee. It's not a fair housing issue. So you can still let your owner decide that they want only a tenant that is going to pay the 1 month broker fee. So that's the listing agreement. This is like just the input sheet. We just made it easy for you guys in case you wanted to use it. There is a contact sheet only if you wanted to use it. It's also just in case you guys wanted something when you're submitting your let's say you have the signed offer and you are the one who's sending the email to the attorneys, you can have this pre-filled and share it with them. So it just has the seller, the buyer, sales associate on the listing as well as the buyer side, the attorneys and title company and mortgage. Again, it's just optional, it's not required. So this document is actually in queue to be submitted. Do you guys see this document? It says New Jersey Real Estate Commission Addendum to Listing Agreement. If your seller is offering to share the commission, you're going to use this addendum. So property address, the town, what the commission is, and you're going to sign it, the managing broker, as well as the owners, and then just fill like the owner's name, phone number, your phone number, and if you have a second owner. Again, it's just like repeating the listing, but if you want to make sure your seller, because like I said earlier, your seller will be your best friend until there's an issue, and they will be your enemy. So if you feel like some MLSs will, on their listing form does not have the shared compensation like Garden State MLS does, use this form. So if you guys want that sample folder with all the required documents for the listing, I will definitely be more than happy to just pre-fill one and share it with, I'll share it with the managers and then they will share it with you guys. All right, any questions on the listing side? So this, I'm going to make sure I change it, but this is the exclusive listing agreement for RE/MAX Select. So this is like if it's an office exclusive, you're not going to put it on the MLS. It's specifically off market. You're just trying to find a buyer. This is the form that you're going to have your seller complete. So owner's name, agency, the address of the seller. I'm sorry, the agency address, phone number, and then this is where you get to put in the property address. So for example, Joe Smith, RE/MAX Select, and then we're just going to put in 12 Main Street. Commission, I would just say, let's say 5.5. This is a broker protection. Again, the above commission shall also apply if the property is placed under contract or sale or lease blank month after the expiration or termination of the listing agreement. This again protects you guys. So if you had an exclusive agreement for 6 months and the seller decided to either terminate or expire without offers, but you have shown it to multiple buyers, how long do you want to be protected? So again, it could be 6 months. Let's just say I had a whole year. And then it says a commission of blank would be also due if the premises are sold to a tenant for which the rental commission was payable to the broker. So again, this listing agreement can use for rental. So let's say the seller did not want to sell the property at this time, but if the tenant ever decided to purchase the property, they're open to that. You want to protect yourself. I know you guys have joked saying, oh, okay, I'm going to put 5 years. I know some of you are putting wording saying during the tenancy time frame. So anything that you feel comfortable to protect yourself, you can do that as well. So I'm going to say, let's say 3.5% in case the tenant decided to buy. Commission split. Listing brokers may cooperate with other brokerage firms or have another agent in their office act as a designated agent by sharing information about their listings and offering to pay part of their commission to the firm that produces the buyer or tenant. So again, when you have an exclusive, you're going to share with all RE/MAX Select agents, right? You're going to be sharing a commission. How much do you want to offer? So you had already agreed to 2% and minus 300. Guys, if you don't charge 300, that's fine. I'm just putting a price. You can just say 150, whatever you want. We don't price fix it. And then here, sub agents, no, buyer's broker. We're going to say yes, 2% minus 150. Dual agent or designated agent. Now you're going to say yes. If you have the dual agency, then it's going to be the 5.5%, right? Because you can be a dual agent or a designated, it's still going to be the 5.5 total because they're going to pay RE/MAX Select the 5.5%. Here's the additional term. If the seller landlord is offering to pay a buyer tenant broker an amount more than the broker fee the buyer tenant has agreed to in buyer tenant broker services agreement shared with seller landlord by the buyer or the buyer's tenant broker, seller landlord directs seller landlord broker to do the following. So what this language means is that if the buyer agent had a buyer agency agreement, let's say for 2%, for 1.5%, and now you're offering 2%, what's going to happen to that 0.5? Now, by law, by the real estate commission, as well as New Jersey realtors, we're supposed to give that 0.5 to the buyer. However, now the seller gets to decide what they want to do with that 0.5%. They can keep the overage for the seller and not pay it to anyone. They can credit the overage to the buyer or other. They can pick, hey, I want the listing agent to make that 0.5. I know you're going to say it's never going to happen, but it's a possibility, right? They can choose to pay you the 0.5. Are we really going to see an overage where the buyer's agent is not going to amend their buyer agency agreement and there's money left over on the commission? Probably never, but it's there. If somebody wanted to say, well, no, if the law says I can't, let's say they had a buyer agency agreement and the buyer does not want to amend, they did not want or agree to amend the buyer agency agreement, and the buyer agent did agree to 1.5%, and now you're paying 2%, that's the only time there will be the 0.5. But if the buyer agent, you know, did some research and they know they can amend their buyer agency agreement and they change it to the 2, then obviously this will matter. But the seller do need to know how they would like that to be handled. And then here is if they chose to not offer a commission, but they were open to a seller's concession, this is where they get to pick if they wanted to offer any type of concession. Again, me personally, I would probably tell my seller if they were willing to offer a concession, just to not even put an amount, leave it up to the buyer's agent and the buyer to submit the offer and ask for a concession. But if your client wanted to put a specific amount, then this is where they can add the amount or percentage. So they may say, you know, I don't want to offer a commission, but I'll offer 2%. And then here, agency broker agent duties. This is where you can do add additional what you want it to be performed by agent and what specifically excluded. So for example, if you got the 3.5, but you're gonna tell the seller, I'll do 3 open houses, hire, move, or pay, let's say, listing agent, listing broker will, for seller, always put an amount. So listing broker will pay for seller cleaning service at closing up to $250. Don't leave it open-ended where there's no amount. They should know that upfront, like how much are you willing to give them towards a cleaning service. Again, you can leave all of this blank. You don't need to have anything added addition to what you already will be doing for them. But if you were going against some other agents and you really have to top that to get this listing, and you agree to do something in addition to normally what you do, this is where you will add it. And then specify specifically excluded. So that means if you got a listing for just 1%, you might say to the seller, well, I'm not going to host any open houses, and whatever else you wanted to remove from the listing. And then they sign. Let me see, I think that we have one more question. Can we make sure these forms are able to add text boxes to modify personalized listings and addendum forms? Is this addendum required or optional? So Joe Daly, these are they does have the text already. It's auto-filled. This is the exclusive agency agreement. So Sue, to answer your question, it's called an addendum, but it's really, I'm going to change the name. It's the exclusive listing agreement for a Remax. So that means if you have a listing that will not be going on the MLS, it's exclusive just to Remax Select, you will use this. This will obviously be required. You need to have a listing agreement signed. So guys, this is it for the listing side. I do want to say that I'm going to do a full training next week, because I do realize it needs a little bit more cleanup on the listing side. So I'll make sure that's done by the weekend, and then I'll do some videos for you guys, and I will pre-fill a listing side, and you guys can use that as an example. And then let me just show you guys something that we prepared for you. Just gonna load in 1 second.
Hi, I have one question. Can I ask?
Yes.
All right, I will be okay if we can just add like of 10 minutes. I mean, we have all this form and everything, but we like to concentrate how we can get the leads for listing, because for sale by owner now, I have too many buyers went for sale by owner, expired, there's already nothing there because home is selling. So we just want to have some from the other agents, some ideas how we can actually get leads for getting listing or for getting sale. Just even a few minutes at the end or at the beginning.
Absolutely. I would love, this is all about New Jersey. So if any of you would love to share or like to share how you're getting seller leads, that would be great. I do want to add something to that, Karma. So let's see if anybody wants to answer and what they're doing. But you guys have, I'm just going to go back to this form really quickly. You guys asked for our locations. You guys don't realize we're larger than you probably think. So here is all of our New Jersey locations. And then these are our Florida locations. We're now in Arizona as well as Virginia. So you guys can use this as part of your listing presentation as well. Sometimes sellers might not even realize, they might think you're just part of one office. So it's good to have this with you and let them know that we are larger than they think we may be. So I hope this is going to be helpful. I know some of you have requested this form, so this will be shared with all of you today. Let me just see if there's a question. So Sue asks, how do we get this? Sue, the exclusive listing is under listing form. If you went and created a loop, any type of listing loop for any of the MLSs, you'll be able to get the exclusive listing. Donna said, good question, because I'm always getting companies that want to sign me up for leads, and it's a lot of money for monthly fees. So if you guys are willing to share, what are you guys doing to get listings? That would be helpful to share. Don't be shy. Another question is, regarding the buyers paying commission, what are the different ways to do the seller compensation if they agree? If the seller does not agree, where do we fill in contract for buyer to pay? And it comes out of the buyer's end closing. So I'm just gonna share my screen again since that question. Let me just go back to. So somebody wanted to know if the seller is not offering a commission or any type of compensation, what do you do in order to make sure you're getting your commission from the buyer? So I'm gonna just share my screen again since we have a few minutes. We're gonna add a loop. So you need to have, you need to make sure you have your exclusive agency agreement, right? This is gonna guarantee you that you're getting paid. Under commission from buyer, we're not collecting a retainer. Let's say you charge them 2.5%. This guarantees you that you're gonna get paid. The buyer needs to know that in the event the seller does not offer any type of compensation and they have to come up with the money, this is what they're gonna pay you.
Okay, but wait, so where are they getting this money from? The first time buyers, they don't have it. It's built in
So
the
then,
contract somewhere.
right, so if they don't have the money, they can submit an offer. Let's say the property was 500,000, they'll add the 10,000 to 510. Even if the seller says they're not offering compensation or concession, you can still submit an offer where you can still request the seller pays it. So you can say, hey, I'm gonna submit an offer for 510, 10,000 is gonna be towards a buyer's concession for 10,000, and then your buyer is paying you 10.
Okay, they're financing it in the mortgage.
Right,
Okay, I missed, I assume. Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, so regarding listings, I'm just gonna let you know for those of you
Oh,
that
actually, we have one question here.
yes.
My question is, if we get to for sale by owner, and let's say I have the buyer for that particular property, and do I still have to ask the seller to sign all these forms? And if the answer then is yes, I understand. But what if the seller says no? What can we do? Because most of the times they're afraid to sign forms, even though it's not going to be an open listing. So how can we handle, and how can be protected in that case?
So if you represent the buyer and they're buying a house sold by owner, you come with the law. So you need to get that seller disclosure signed. Will they have to sign the listing agreements, etc.? No, but the documents that you need the buyer and seller to sign, they will have to sign them.
But if they say no,
It's the law. It's if they want to sell their home, this, they will have to sign them.
and what if, let's say, okay, let's get an attorney and let's get the attorney handle it. Can we still do that? And can the attorney then probably explain in a better way to the seller, and hopefully they sign? Can we also do that?
The seller can definitely go to an attorney and be an unrepresented seller, but if you have the buyer, you still need to get certain forms, like the seller disclosure needs to be signed by the seller. That's going to be a contingency on your buyer buying their property. Now, if the buyer went without an agent, obviously then the law doesn't apply. It's buyer and seller both unrepresented. If one of the parties is using a realtor, the transactions come with the law because the agent is licensed. So yes, can you get an attorney to go over the legal documents will need to be signed? Yes, it's probably going to cost them money. If they don't have an agent, the attorney's not going to do it for free. So the seller needs to know that they might have to pay an attorney to review these documents for them.
So my last question. So let's say I'm a buyer. I'm not a realtor. I'm a buyer. And I found a property that is for sale by owner, and I asked my attorney to help me with the contract. So attorneys also have to go through all these forms?
If you are a buyer on a rep without an agent, then no. That's gonna be, the attorney's gonna have their own contract. That's not a real estate contract. These forms apply to real estate agents.
Okay, understood.
They have to be a member, obviously, of New Jersey Realtors NAR to get these forms, right? This is what we pay a fee to be a member to be able to get these forms. So if they're just going directly to the attorney, then no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me see. So again, so regarding listings, I would definitely want to do, I guess we can do a mastermind regarding what you guys are doing to get more listings. But just remember, if you are supporting our LandQuest title, they do offer you guys smart leads. So that's like high likely sellers that are going to sell. So whether they are absentee owners, divorcees, obviously estate, you will get a list similar to that. So if you have questions, Karma, just give me a call after and I'll be more than happy to let you know, because we are getting past 11. I would love to do a whole mastermind regarding how to get more seller leads, if you guys are interested in that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Do you have my number? Shall I give you my number?
I'm gonna write my number in the chat. So for any of you that do not have my number, feel free to copy and you guys can call me. Sue, the recording will be on our hub, so feel free. All of our recordings are on the hub. So if you guys ever wanted to review previous Zooms from this Tuesday Mastermind, you'll be able to watch it there. You're welcome. All right, thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate all of you. Feel free to call me or call your managers if you guys have any other questions.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye.